Good afternoon, AP Human Geography students. This is a video as promised to talk you through the progress check for the Unit 6 free response question regarding the two maps here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the questions again, quickly review what the question's asking, and then go over the scoring rubric to let you know if you got the points or not. So hopefully at this point, you guys have at least attempted this. If you haven't, you need to pause the video and try this out first so you don't cheat yourself. Again, the idea behind this is to get you better at the FRQ, which will inevitably be coming. Okay, so you got two maps here. So this is an example of an FRQ that's a two stimuli FRQ. Again, you're going to have three options here when the AP gives these out. You're going to have a question that could be 0 stimuli, 1, or 2. So because you're using two maps, you got two stimuli here. All right, so question A, identify the scale of analysis for the data provided in both maps. It's just asking what types of maps are these. So map 1, I'm going to be scrolling up and down, so hopefully this doesn't give you motion sickness here. Map 1 is just a world map. All you have to say is map 1, I guess to word it, map 1, which shows world annual orange crop production, is a good example of a world map and a country on a scale of analysis. Map 2, you could say, would show a county scale of analysis, because not only is it the state of Florida, but it's the state of Florida and the individual counties within Florida. So you could say the scale of analysis is a county scale of analysis. You have to get both of them though. So if you just said that it's a country map or a world map for map 1, but then you said map 2 is a region map, you wouldn't get the point. You got to say county and or country / world. That would be fine. Remember that each of these questions is worth a point. Part B, orange production is a type of specialty agriculture. Describe one characteristic of specialty agriculture. So you could say specialty agriculture refers to monoculture, the production of one crop. If you want to be specific, for Florida, you could say production of fruits, vegetables, plants, things like that. You could also mention that the specialty agriculture tends to be labor intensive and or land intensive, uses a significant amount of land and uses a significant amount of labor or capital. If you mention any of those things, either monoculture and like an example, or labor intensive, land intensive, capital intensive, that would get you the point. So you got some options there for B. Part C, describe the spatial pattern of orange cultivation in Florida. So that's dealing with map 2 here, the county map of Florida. All it's asking is orange production in Florida, oh my God, is orange production in Florida clustered or dispersed? It's clustered. It's clustered where? It's clustered in South Florida. So if you worded a response around orange production is mainly concentrated in Central or South Florida, that would work. Another way, like I mentioned yesterday, is if you wanted to go from the perspective of economic development, you could say that orange production tends to be concentrated in core regions of the world, or some periphery regions. But again, if you want to just use this map, clustered Central South Florida would get you the point there. You got a couple ways of doing that. Part D, explain one barrier to agricultural development that prevents counties in South Florida from producing oranges as a crop. So what it's asking here, why can't South Florida make more oranges? And so you got a few different options here. Preservation of land, you have a lot of national parks, you have the Everglades in South Florida, so if you worded, again, this is explain, so you can't just say preservation of land, you have to say preservation of land due to environmental pressures, due to the desire to maintain natural wetlands or natural forests, grasslands. That would get you the point. You could also tie it into like urban development and say the reason that a barrier to agricultural development in South Florida is due to urban development. Then say urban development is causing cities to grow in size, which decreases the amount of orange farms available or amount of land available to farm oranges as a crop. Something to that extent, doesn't have to be both, would do. Okay, if you wanted to tie it into the climate and then explain how the climate isn't suitable for orange production, you could do that as well. Part E, explain a barrier to agricultural development that prevents counties in North Florida from producing oranges. So it's just asking, in North Florida, where there's literally zero orange production or very few, why can't more oranges be produced? Here you could tie it into the climate. You say the climate is due to this. It's less humid in the northern part of Florida. You have some colder fall, winter months. You're not going to get snow, but it's going to be colder, which makes the production of oranges far more difficult. If you wanted to tie it into soil conditions or urban development in North Florida, that would work as well. Again, one of them with an explanation. That would get you the point. Part F. In the world map, the United States appears to be a large producer of oranges. Explain how the world map misrepresents the scale of production for the cultivation of oranges in the United States. So we're looking at this map. And if you were to look at this map, it looks like the United States is doing pretty well overall as a producer of oranges. It ranks right up there with the top orange producers in the world. You know, you got India, you have Morocco and Brazil and Mexico, okay? Why is the map misleading? That's what it's asking. Well, the map is misleading because just look at Florida. The vast majority of Florida's orange production comes from a handful of counties. The very tip of South Florida and pretty much all the northern counties in Florida don't produce any oranges, or very few. So you could say it's misleading due to the fact that very small areas of the United States produce oranges, yet they produce so much oranges that it makes the United States appear to be a major orange producer. There aren't specific areas of cultivation, and it doesn't show areas like it does. It's not as specific. I guess that's the way you can word it. It shows like these northern states. Like, look, it's got Alaska highlighted in black. Alaska isn't a major producer of oranges. The Illinois, the northern states, the Great Plains states, those aren't major producers of oranges. So again, if you took anything of what I just said, put it into an explanation, that would answer the question on why the map is misleading. Last one. Using the maps above, explain how oranges as a global food source are part of a commodity chain within multinational agribusiness corporations. So you got a couple big keywords there that are used throughout the agriculture unit. Commodity chain and multinational agribusiness. So remember, agribusiness is this big agricultural business that not only produces the crop, they also could produce the seeds, the fertilizers, they process the crop, they retail it, they market it. Essentially, agribusiness is everything related to the production of an agricultural crop. And usually it's monoculture. It's a one specific crop or just a couple. Multinational, remember this is a corporation that not only has a headquarters, usually at an MDC, but then relies on other parts of the world to be integrated into its supply chain. Think of the chocolate production. You know, a lot of chocolate is sold by multinational corporations in Europe and North America, yet the vast majority of the world's chocolate comes from where? LDCs, your periphery, semi-periphery companies or countries. Another word, commodity chain. Commodity chain refers to food, agriculture, being used not only to feed people, but being used in other ways. Corn is an example. Ethanol, feeding cattle, not only feeding humans, but feeding cattle, which leads to feedlots and ranching and cattle raising, dairy farming. Commodity chains, you gotta know what commodity chains are. Okay, back to the question. You gotta explain how oranges are part of the commodity chain with these multinational corporations. So you got a few different ways here. It's essentially asking how are oranges part of something bigger. And if you phrased it into, you got a few different options here. You could go with like orange juice. Use orange juice as an example. People aren't eating those oranges. The oranges are being used to make a certain type of juice. If they're used in desserts, salads, that's another way of doing it. Oils, teas, things like that. What are the peels? What are the leftovers used for? If they're used in orange sodas or different orange drinks. Just the way you want to phrase this, guys, is just brainstorm for a second. How else are oranges used? When oranges are picked from the tree, not every orange is going to be eaten by hand by somebody. They're used in a lot of different ways. Pick one of those ways, explain it, how it works with like a global supply chain, and you got the point, okay? If you're looking for an example here, if you're looking, say, for the orange juice example, you could say oranges are picked, processed into orange juice, which is then sold by a multinational corporation that has its roots or headquarters in MDCs, but the orange juice is distributed throughout the world and is consumed throughout the world. Good example of oranges serving as a commodity chain, and you make a connection to a multinational corporation. You could even use a specific example like Dole as an orange juice provider, Sunkist. Oh, what else is there? Minute Maid, Tropicana. You can use those. The more you show the reader that you know it, the better chance you're going to get the point. So, hope this helps. Email me with questions. This will probably be the last video I make for a little bit because next week we'll be on spring break. And I think that's about it. There will be some changes that the AP is going to make, most likely, to the AP exam with the spread of the coronavirus. So I will have an email out in a little bit explaining those changes. And that is all I got. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe. Love to hear from you too, so feel free to use up that discussion board, which is, if you want to know where it's at, feel free to use that discussion board right here. I will probably add to it or create another one over the break if you're looking for another way to review. So far, Cholo, I gotta answer you, Cholo. Nice job, buddy. And Bray, you are the only two. You guys got to pick it up. This isn't just off time. I know next week you're supposed to be on spring break, but guys, you got to pick it up a little bit and make sure you can practice this stuff, because whenever we get back, it's going to be a hard turnaround if you've just been on a few-week layoff. So make sure you're using your time wisely, and that is all I got. All right, guys, have a good one.